Welcome to the Scoop World Order. I've got the newly minted Monica Daniels. I was going to say Monica Johnson, then I remember that's like, oh, Mike D's new wife. How are you doing? So you guys pulled the trigger. You did the coach's wedding, which is always in July because that's their 1 month off. So how did that all go down? And how are you feeling being Mrs. Daniels now?
It feels wonderful. I'm still pinching myself, so it feels wonderful.
Are you going to start like a competitive moving company? Because in the last
I should.
2 months, yeah, I mean, you should. I mean, from Cincinnati to Army to Akron to Buffalo in 2 months. Now, did you do a full move
in 90 days?
Did you do a full move every time or no? Say no.
When we moved to West Point, we were in transition. We were looking for a home when we were at West Point, and then we didn't have an opportunity to settle there. So we were able to transition successfully to Akron. And so now we're in the midst of packing and moving to Buffalo. So I will be in Buffalo full time by this Friday, July 16th.
You're like the coach's wife all-star team right there. You got to do 3 moves. 3 weeks.
3 moves in 90 days. But who's counting?
Yeah, and I know. I talked to Mike, but he's getting started up in the coaching profession as a college coach, and it's he's been a real successful head coach down in Cincinnati. But the thing that was real interesting is I told him when I was talking to him, I was like, man, Buffalo, like if you're gonna pick a city that's got a MAC school, that's like the one to go to because they've got Bills, they've got the Sabres, they've got stuff to do. And now that you can do a summer official visit, it really helps Buffalo as opposed to just being in December when it's a foot of snow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things I love about Buffalo, New York, is that it has a Midwest feel. To me, it's an extension of Northeast Ohio. So I feel right at home, and I'm close to Columbus, so I can get to Paris in 4.5 hours. So it's a great location. It's a great location.
You just get a couple audiobooks tuned up and you're ready to rock. Get your 8-hour round trip done and you're all good. So let's got a lot of questions. The Scoop family, man, we got like almost 100 questions. So I'm not going to ask all of them. I'm going to ask some of them. But we're gonna, it's crazy. Everybody wants to know about PJ. So we're going to start a little bit with PJ. Coming up through high school, when did you realize he was going to be a pretty significant recruit, a 5-star type offensive tackle?
That is that's a funny question, a loaded question, I should say. Like I knew that Paris had an opportunity to play Division I football as early as his freshman year at St. Xavier High School. So I knew that opportunity would be available to him, but I had no idea that he will be the number 1 offensive lineman, number 1 in the state of Ohio, top 10 in the nation. I did not see that coming because he played defensive end as a freshman on a freshman team and JV team at St. Xavier High School. So I did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, well, it happens fast, and he sprouted up and turned into a monster. So that was good. So when you guys were going through the recruiting process, something that you told me a while ago that really struck me is how detailed your plan was that you wanted from each program. You kind of say, hey, this is what I would like to see. And you give some time to prepare it. So it wasn't like, you show up and I was like, no, I want to see film cut-ups of similar body type Paris. I want to see how you developed them. Take me through that and tell me a little bit about how your background, working in football helped you formulate that?
That's a great question. A lot of individuals don't know that I started my career working as an academic advisor to student athletes at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. And so I worked with various programs. I worked with football, I worked with basketball, hockey, synchronized skaters, softball. So I worked with those programs prior to me starting my family. So I learned a little bit about what was needed going through that recruiting process, as well as advising student athletes. And so once I started having children, I decided to be an at-home mom for a little bit. And then I started working in a private school setting as an academic advisor. And so my entire background has been education with athletics as well. And so when Paris started going through the recruiting process, and with him being new to the position, playing offensive line, I knew that I needed to dig a little bit deeper with him, even though he was, again, he was number one in the state, number one in his position, and top 10 in the country. I still felt that Paris needed more to help him to develop, because he only played the position for one year, one full season, when he was getting all these accolades. And I felt it was important that Paris can truly develop as an offensive lineman. And it was great that he had all those accolades, but that wasn't enough for me. I wanted him to continue to develop. To me, that was just the first stepping stone to greatness. So I reached out to each school that Paris was interested in when we were doing these unofficial visits, because we visited 28 out of 50 schools. So when I think about that, that sounds crazy.
That's wild. Yeah.
But I wanted Paris to be able to really find a school that's a great fit for him. So when I scheduled these unofficial visits, one of the requests I made was I wanted them to show Paris and I his strength and his weaknesses during film study. So I wanted a film study session. And then second, I wanted them to show us how that would translate to their program. So I wanted to see someone similar build, because Paris doesn't look like your traditional offensive lineman. You know, Paris was coming in the door at 6'7", and at the time his weight was, when we first started this process, around 270, 275. And so Paris didn't look like a traditional offensive lineman. And I wanted him to be able to be at a program that will help develop him. And then I wanted to see evidence. I was evidence based. I didn't want someone just to tell me they could do it, but I wanted them to show me that it was done. And that was important to me, extremely important to me. And Ohio State did a really great job of showing us through film study with Coach Stud. He took the time to show us exactly how he can help develop Paris. And he also continued to communicate with Paris during the season and also in the off season, working with him and communicating with him on how he can continue to develop. So after each game, Paris had on Friday night, Paris and Coach Stud would chat on Saturdays, and he would watch his film and he would have a conversation with him, explaining exactly what Paris needed to do to improve, and also what he did correctly. So that was important to us.
So what were the final, did you guys take 5 official visits, or did you take 3, 2?
We took official visits to Georgia, LSU, and we also did an official visit to UC.
Okay. I like that. Did you, and then, so what sold you on Ohio State versus the other schools during the official visit process? Were you guys pretty much locked in? I mean, I know there was a little bit of trepidation between Coach Meyer and Coach Day. Was there any point where you thought about flipping, or was it all Ohio State? You just had to sit down with Coach Day and get the reassurances you needed?
It was all about Ohio State and making sure we were firm in our decision. And people have, individuals have heard this story before, and I can share it really briefly. But when Coach Meyer announced his retirement, we didn't have a relationship with Coach Day at the time. I believe Paris and I had only met Coach Day maybe twice prior to Coach Meyer announcing his retirement, because our relationship was built with Coach Meyer and Coach Stud. So we didn't know him. And so it was very important for us to take the time to get to know him. And in the midst of that, we wanted to make sure we made the right decision. And so we didn't want to, as some kids will do, they will decommit and then open their recruitment up and visit various schools. We stay committed to Ohio State as we continue to make sure that was the decision. We were firm in that decision, and we communicated with Coach Day and Coach Stud through the entire process.
I got you. So Coach Stud would literally go through film with Paris on Saturday morning, like before a game, or Sunday morning? Or you used to say Saturday morning?
Yeah, so he would, I would say Sunday. I'm sorry, it wouldn't have been Saturday because he's preparing for game day. So Sunday. Yeah, so Sunday. So that he would have a conversation with Paris about film study with him, going over what he needed to work on and what he was doing correctly. And even when we will come to campus on unofficial visits, he will again pull out film and go over that with Paris.
Mm-hmm. That's
just
awesome.
the two of them.
I know that there's a cap on how many calls you can make a week, or at least there used to be. How often did he communicate with you, or would he call Paris and say, hey, can you put mom on the phone for a second? Or was there frequent communication between you two?
It was frequent. Yes, it was frequent communication. When Paris was offered by Ohio State in December of 2018, when he was offered, it was at that moment that myself, Paris, Coach Day, and Coach Stud, we decided we were going to schedule a weekly conversation. And that conversation had to be initiated on our end because they could not call us. They could not text us. And so they did a really great job of making sure they were following all the rules and the protocols that was in place. So those calls were already pre-scheduled. Can't remember exactly what day it was, but Paris knew, for example, every Tuesday, I'm just making this up, 8:00, he was supposed to call Coach Stud or Coach Day and have a conversation with them. Coach Meyer.
Coach Meyer. Yeah.
Coach Meyer.
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, because I know that they usually limit it to one call a week. Because back when I got recruited back in the Stone Age in 2003, like I just had a home phone. Like I didn't have a cell phone yet. Right. Cell phones were kind of like new and coming. But I mean, I was just going to call every Thursday from the O-line coach, and we talked for 5 minutes and good luck this week, good luck this week. Like I didn't need a dissertation or anything because I just, it was late. I knew he was probably making 70 calls, and if he's got to talk to some guy longer, I was already committed and good to go. I'm good. So,
but you know what? Thinking about it now, those phone calls were probably around 5:30, 6:00 in the morning because Paris, he was at St. Xavier High School by 6:00 in the morning, preparing for football or his academic day. So those phone calls were between 5:30, 6:00 in the morning.
Whew. Yes. Getting set out of bed early on that one. Overall, you're pleased with Coach Stud. I mean, I think that the Lions never been more talented than it is right now. Like this is the most athletic line I think we've ever had. But overall, you're pleased that Paris made a decision to play for Ohio State and even furthermore, Coach Stud.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we see ourselves as a family. And so, and I've shared this in the past, whenever I call Coach Day or Coach Stud, they will take my call. They will answer. If they're not able to communicate with me, they will say, hey, Monica, I'm not available right now, but let's schedule this time to communicate. But it's an open door policy with them. And, even during this time when Coach Stud is away on vacation, even Coach Day away on vacation, they're still sending text messages to myself like, hey, Monica, how are you doing? How's everything going? So it's open communication.
That's awesome. And you obviously love Coach Day. Coach Day is awesome.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
We couldn't ask for a better head coach and a better position coach and Coach Day and Coach Stud.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, all right. So I got a couple questions. So I'm going to say one, this is an easy one. What's Paris's favorite meal that either you would cook or you would go get, or something where it's like, if it's, he makes straight A's, like what do you get in Paris, or what do you make in Paris, or going out and get in Paris?
Okay. Straight A's. If Paris gets straight A's, but she did that very often, Paris wanted a steak dinner, medium plus.
My man. That's my man.
Yes,
now,
medium plus.
Cooking, or you guys go to like Jeff Ruby's, or what's the deal?
It depends. Sometimes it's me cooking. Sometimes it's us going out to eat dinner. So it really depends. But yes, that's his favorite. That's his favorite go-to. He loves a good steak.
This was I had to give you an easy one, and this one was really interesting because I didn't even know this. Was Paris learning Mandarin your idea or his? Shout out to Buck Wrestler 141 for that question because I didn't know.
That is a great question. No, it was actually Paris's idea. So Paris in middle school, he started studying Mandarin Chinese in the 5th grade. So he was presented 2 options to study Latin or Mandarin Chinese. I was pushing for Latin because, again, my background in education, I'm thinking ACTs, SATs, this will help him get a perfect score. But he said, no, Mom, I really want to try Mandarin. If it doesn't work, then I will take Latin. And he caught on, fell in love with the language, the culture. And so that's how he started studying Mandarin Chinese. So I can't take any credit for that. I was pushing.
I got another one. There's a lot of people that just thanking you for fighting for the football season last year. Oh. If you could ask Kevin Warren 3 questions in a one-on-one interview, and what would you ask him?
Great question. I guess my number one question would be is what we wanted was to communicate with him. We just wanted to kind of sit down and understand how did he come to that conclusion, and just wanted to hear his side of it. That's all we wanted. We just wanted to understand how did he get to that decision.
Any other follow-ups with the other two? Like, you should ask, hey, can I have your job? Because I'll do it better than you. You know, Monica Johnson for commissioner. I'm telling you, or Monica Daniels. Excuse me, I'm screwing up already. Really, no, that makes sense. I mean, the lack of communication, I think, was probably the most frustrating part for everybody, because everybody else was still playing football and we're watching, which was bizarre in itself. Especially given how hard our kids had to fight to play, and
absolutely,
they got the title. So it was a strange year, but thank God it's gone now.
But you know what? You think about it, Kurt, what a blessing. We went from having a schedule to a season being canceled to playing a national championship. That's a blessing. And that's a win. Even though we know, it didn't, the season didn't end the way we wanted, but I'm so grateful for the opportunity that we fought extremely hard and that allowed us to participate in a national championship. That's a blessing. What a blessing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when there's no training camp and kind of all they're up against just to make it to there is amazing. Beat Clemson was amazing. Like, it was a great season. I mean, they had a lot of stuff stacked against them, and constantly getting tested and isolation and all that stuff that they had going against them. Man, it was tough. I was happy for them. I'm always just happy to see the kids play, because I know they want to play. Yes. That's what they're here for. This is a good one. If Paris had not gone to OSU, where would he have ended up? If OSU got deleted from the map.
If OSU was deleted from the map, great question.
I know.
I would say probably LSU.
Really?
Yes,
Tigers.
because of the culture. It was the culture.
Really?
Culture, the city, yes. And that's one of the things that we fell in love with, was the culture in Baton Rouge. It was amazing. It made us feel at home there. But yes, I would say LSU.
I'm glad he didn't go there, because, man, they've got a whirlwind of stuff coming down on them right now.
Oh, no. But you know what? I knew in my spirit where Paris was going to go. It was a process that we had to go through, because I wanted him to have peace in his decision. And if I had to do it all over again, I would have done it all over again, the way that it was handled. And again, I had peace in my spirit that Paris will be at Ohio State.
Now, would you have taken 29 visits again if you had all the peace in your spirit, or would you have just taken one visit and said, okay, let's save Mom some gas and some airplane tickets?
But you know what? I have to say, I'm glad we took that journey, because it was, because we grew as a family. Paris and Sydney and I grew as a family. And it was wonderful to be able to go out and visit. But most importantly, Kirk, when Paris ever since he started high school, my goal for him was to be at a school that was centered on strong academics. And so to be able to have the opportunity to visit Stanford, because he had an offer from Stanford, to be able to visit Southern California, UCLA, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, that meant a lot to me as a parent, because of the academics and just the strong academics there, not just football, not just sports, but the academic piece, because Paris worked really hard to have his 4.0 GPA. And he took education just as serious as athletics. And so it was important that we did that. And we grew as a family. It was great to get on the road and take those road trips and travel. And it was a wonderful experience. Great memories.
No, that makes sense. I mean, you guys get to go see a lot of parts of the country that if you don't have a football visit for, you might not be booking a trip to Palo Alto or to LA, because I mean, it's a long flight, but if you got someone waiting for you at the end, you can go explore a little bit. That's a good point. I never thought of it like that. I'm sure that was times you guys will always remember. I'm just glad, but I'm sure you're also glad that it ended up in Ohio as opposed to a 6-hour flight to San Jose to get to Stanford. That's a long flight.
Right. Very long flight.
Yeah, I went out to the 49ers. I had to make that flight a couple times. It is long, and there's only a couple directs, so it's going into San Jose, because that's right. I assume you guys flew into San Jose.
We did.
That's a close airport. So it makes sense, but it's a lot better to jump in the car. Well, what kind of improvements did Willie Anderson help Paris make, like with his training? Because I know Willie works with him a lot. Willie's a legend, obviously,
Yes.
Hall of Famer, or close to a Hall of Famer. But what did you see from him and Willie?
Wow. Paris was a blank canvas for Willie. So when Steve Speck, the head coach of St. Xavier High School, met with Paris and I, October of his freshman year, he sat us down and said, hey, Monica, Paris is not going to play defensive end in college. He said he is going to play offensive line. He said, so what I want us to do is start preparing him for that position. He said, because once he gets to college, he's really not going to have time to learn that position. And I would love for him to learn that during high school. And so Paris and I were all in. It was like, okay, if this is what's going to yield a scholarship opportunity and an opportunity for him to start on the field, we're all for it. And so I asked Steve, I said, so who can help him make this transition? And Steve said, well, I can't. He said, so, you know, we got to find someone that's going to be able to help him make that transition. And so through family friends, we were able to connect with Willie Anderson. And so Willie took Paris under his wings during the summer leading into his sophomore year. He spent 1 full week with him, teaching him offensive line. They did film study. They worked on hand placement. They worked on his kick step and just jumped right into it. And Paris absorbed, he took it all in like a sponge because, again, Paris didn't know. He didn't have any bad habits because he only played as a defensive end. So he didn't have any bad habits. And he took in everything that Willie taught him, and it took off from there.
I love it. That's such a great story. And Willie hopefully gets in the Ring of Honor for the Bengals. I know that's been something that they've been talking about.
Yes, that's what we're praying and believing for. Yes.
He needs to get that. All right, here's another great one from Black Knuck on the Scoop family. If you had to sum your personal why as to it relates to OSU for your kid and yourself, what word would you use? You can use one word to sum it up.
Family.
Yeah, that's perfect. So you only get one. That's two. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing you. But that's a great one. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, they come up with some really great questions. It's like,
they are very good questions.
Is the other one, David Stamp, Scoop family member. How does Paris like playing guard?
You know, Paris has embraced it. Of course, he was anticipating playing tackle, but he has embraced it because it gives him an opportunity to learn 4 positions on the line. 4 positions, not just one, but 4. And so he has embraced it. And he fully understands that he can be more valuable to his team, and prayerfully plays at the next level. He'll be valuable at that level as well. So he has embraced it. Paris is a very optimistic young man. I raised him to be that way. So he always sees the positive and the blessings in everything. So he's embraced it. He's looking forward to it. He's looking forward to being out there right next to Nick playing. And so he's excited, and I'm excited too.
Yeah. Has he snapped at all? I mean, he might as well learn all 5.
You know what? That's a great question for Coach Stud. Not to my knowledge.
Honestly, I was like, you might as well learn how to snap. If you're down there, something else, the same as playing guard almost. But I'm excited to see the guard because I mean, the guys that talk to me that I know that are on the line with him, they're just like, he's violent, he's tough, and he'll be a great guard. And I'm like, works for me. I mean, you guys get to see him in practice every day. So, it's like, if you guys think that he can, because you got to be a guard's a tough animal because everything's quick and, you got to be nasty to play inside, and he's plenty nasty. All right. Yes. How God, these guys are great. What separates Ohio State from the rest of the country? Like kind of like a recruiting thing. Like what do we do that we're like the best at in your opinion? Because like you said, you went to 28 schools, so you're a great resource for us to be educated on. Like
I would say my number one observation is family. And I'm not just throwing that word around lightly. Like it's a sense of family. Whenever I give you an example, on the visits, Sydney, my daughter Sydney, she attended the visits with us, and Sydney, whenever she walked into the Woody, she felt at home. She was able to walk freely around the facility. She knew the staff members by their first name, not just the coaches, but the individuals in the recruiting office. She felt at home. And that was important to me. And versus when we were at Alabama, she did not feel comfortable there. She didn't really want to walk inside the facility because she felt that it was a business to her, that she wasn't connected. And so that played a huge part in our decision, is the sense of family, because I needed to know that once I dropped Paris off at school, that I can sleep well at night. That was important to me. I didn't want to worry about my son. And the way they go about addressing the parents during a recruiting process, they do everything above board, they do everything correctly. It's a sense of family, and it really is a sense of community. Like the instant spirit that I felt when I first walked into the Woody was a spirit of excellence. That's the very first thing I felt when I walked inside the Woody for the first time when Paris was offered. We felt it. And it felt real. It felt authentic. It's nothing fake.
You see all those trophies down the hallways, and you're like, yeah, this place is legit. They don't just give you those trophies for showing up. You got to be excellent to win the Remington and the Outland, and
absolutely
all those great deals we won. This is a great one. What is one thing you could tell us about the OSU team that we wouldn't know otherwise? It's tough, isn't it? Because we know everything at the Scoop. It's hard.
Like, what do you not know?
That's why we're a Scoop.
I think everything's been revealed. I can't imagine.
I thought you were going to say starting quarterback. I don't know. You can't do that. Don't you get in trouble? Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna find out when everyone else finds out. So.
I love you. I know. So Aguacia 23, who's a female on our board, who is actually awesome, super knowledgeable. This is a great question. Like, from mother to mother, this is going to be something different from everybody else. How hard is it to not be hands-on, like maybe you were in high school, in regards to playing time? If you think your son is playing out of position, you don't like how the coach is talking to your son, et cetera. And I think that might be like something like coming from, like she might have a son who's, the coach out of position.
That's a great question.
Dude, moms unite.
That's a great question. Well, I never questioned a coach regarding playing time. Paris started playing football when he was 5 years old, and I had made the decision at 5 when he came to me and told me that he wanted to play football. And I made the decision then never to ask a coach about playing time. Never. So I've never asked a coach that question. So what I've done is I've taught Paris to be an advocate, to speak up for himself. So if Paris had questions and he would bring his questions or concerns home to me, then I will help him how to address the coach with his questions and with his concerns. And then I will also challenge Paris and say, okay, I need you to come up with a solution. So just don't come to the coach with your questions or your concerns, but how can you change? What can you do differently? And so that's the advice I will give. I have never asked the coach about playing time. It was all about encouraging Paris how to have that communication with his coach.
I love that. How involved are the coaches' wives with the players? Like I know they show up on Thursday and give them candy and stuff, but like, is that, do they do like family dinners? Do they like, everybody come to Stud's house and let's play charades? Like, I don't know. Like,
pre-COVID,
do stuff like that?
because during COVID, of course there wasn't. So pre-COVID, pre-COVID, the boys they went over to Coach Stud's home for the Super Bowl, to watch the Super Bowl. So they were at his home for the Super Bowl. And then also there were times where Miss Cindy would bake items for the boys and check on the boys. And so she also communicates, she'll reach out to us, moms, and asking us if anything that she can do, just checking in, seeing how we're doing. And so Cindy is very hands-on with us, and she's very hands-on with the boys. They know her, they love her. It's amazing when I'm in the Woody and I see her come in the Woody, the boys run down a hall like little 5-year-olds embracing her. So it's a great relationship there. And also Paris has not only a relationship with Miss Cindy, but also he calls Miss Nina, Coach Day's wife. So it's a sense of family, and it's really real and authentic there. Yes.
Now, I'm going to bring this up because this is one of the great stories of all time. you're from Michigan, right?
Yes, I am from Michigan. Born and raised.
Family up there? You have family in Michigan?
Yes, I do. Yes. My dad's side of family lives in Michigan.
Was Michigan ever in the conversation? And if they were, did you ever visit? They were?
Yes. So let me give you this background story. A lot of people assume because Paris was born and raised in Ohio that I raised him as a Buckeye. But our family is from Detroit, Michigan. And so my mother's side of family relocated to Cincinnati, and my dad's side of family lives in Detroit. And so no one in our family were Buckeye fans. So either they're Wolverines or they're Spartans, never Buckeyes. And so we do have family members besides myself that went to Miami University. So again, we were not Ohio State fans being at Miami University. So when Paris was first offered Ohio State, of course, we knew what that meant. That was a wonderful opportunity. We were pleased with that offer, but Paris were also offered by Michigan State and also the team up north. And so we were excited about that. We thought maybe that was an opportunity for us to transition back to Michigan, to go back home. So we were really excited about Michigan State and the team up north. But we did visit Michigan State several times, great staff there. We also visit Michigan twice. So we went there twice. And I knew by, honestly, the first visit that was not going to be a good fit for Paris. I knew by the first visit. Yes.
So was the first visit the episode with the O-line coach, or was that the second?
Yes.
Did you give him another chance?
Yes.
So the first, so you have to give him a second chance after you had an episode, because you had a very like a plan in place, which I honestly I don't know if I've seen something like that from a dad, a mom. Like you said, this is what I want to see.
Yes.
Like no academics. I want to do some film, some breakdown PJ, and I think he just skipped it. Like he said, and I was like, man, that's really dumb.
Because my philosophy was doing these unofficial visits, that's on my dime. I'm paying for that. And so I wanted to make sure that we got all our questions answered, because there was no guarantee I was going to come back for a second visit. So I wanted to make sure that all my questions were answered. So I contacted the school ahead of time, requesting what I wanted ahead of time. And everyone was great about making sure my questions were answered. And so Paris and I scheduled a visit. It was Paris and I, my stepfather and my daughter, Sydney. We decided we were going to visit the team up north. And while we were there, we had an opportunity to meet with Coach Hartbaugh. He was very kind, very thoughtful. He actually was the one who greeted us, and he's the one who accompanied us on our tour. So he spent the entire time with us while we were there. But it was the one moment that he wasn't with us. And that's when we sat down with the offensive line coach at that time. He's no longer there, Coach Ed Warner. So we met with him during that time. And I just wasn't pleased with that meeting, wasn't pleased with that whatsoever. So I knew at that moment that Paris would not be attending that university. And I was very upfront with Coach Hartbaugh, letting him know that the meeting did not go the way we anticipated. And I didn't want to waste his time, and that Paris wouldn't be attending that university. I was very upfront on the first visit.
Yes. Man, you got Paris Johnson walking out the door because you missed the layup. You wanted to come back to Michigan, and that sucks. But lucky for us that he's a Buckeye. I love it.
Yes. So we just happened to be back in. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying we just happened to be back in Detroit visiting family. And so while we were visiting family, and then at that point, it was relayed to us through Coach Speck that they wanted us to come back, just give it one more chance. And so we were in the area, and I figured it wouldn't be any harm to stop by. And so we stopped by and had a brief conversation with Coach Hartbaugh. But then I continued to stress to him that Paris wouldn't be attending the university, and that it wasn't an option because of Ed Warner. And we did not meet with Ed Warner during that second visit, but I just wanted to, show kindness to Jim Harbaugh and let him know, thank you so much for the offer, but Paris wouldn't be attending the university. I just wanted to be respectful, because the coaching world is a small world, and I wanted to be very respectful to him. Yes.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yes.
Urban Meyer, there was a kid from Miami that Casey McDermott, I'll never forget this. And Urban went to go see him, and he was up here. I met his family. His dad was went to OU, Athens, Ohio. And kid was nice enough to around campus, had a good visit.
Yes.
And then his brothers both went to the U, so I figured he was gonna go to Miami like the U, like the brothers did. But Urban went to go see him in like January. It was like when they had some time before signing day. And he told him he kind of made a fool of him, and then he made this stupid comment where he's like, I thought he was going to cry like a baby when I told him I had no desire to come to Ohio State after he came down to see me in Florida. But he said something stupid like that to a media outlet, and it got picked up. And it's the Casey McDermott says Urban Meyer's about to cry. Guess what NFL team Casey McDermott's on right now? The Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's right.
You never know how people are going to come back around into your life. Because now Urban's guys holding it. Now Urban has the power instead of KC. So
that's right.
Interesting learning lesson. This is a really another God. These guys are killing it with these questions. RX Buckeye asks, what are some things you saw from other schools during Paris's recruitment that you feel OSU should implement going forward? Were there any hi, we've got a ice skating rink, or we've got a bounce house, or we've got they eat dinner in the stadium, or anything like that where you're like, man, that was really cool. Ohio State should do that.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Ohio State did a wonderful job. It's a very elite program, first class. No, I don't.
Nothing. So nothing from nothing. Clemson, Bama. And
no,
not like a bigger waterfall or something.
Not at all.
Slide? Did you guys go to Clemson? Did you go down the slide?
We did. Sydney went down the slide.
There you go.
At Clemson, yes. But that wasn't a deal breaker for us. But yes.
I love it. Any hobbies for Paris? Paris got any interesting hobbies? Does he play guitar like Harry Miller? I mean, he could play drums, I guess, and Harry could play guitar and they could have a rock band.
Paris used to play the saxophone. He hasn't played the saxophone in 4 years, but Paris used to play the saxophone. He was in a jazz band. Can you believe that? Yeah, he was in a jazz band.
He should pick that back up and start putting clips on YouTube, and he'll start getting paid for it. You never know.
If he knew I was telling you all this right now, he probably would kill me. Just
why? David Robinson played the saxophone. He's one of the best centers of all time in the NBA. This is the last question, man, on NDJ's question, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, but this has been awesome. Okay. What's the difference in being recruited by Urban versus Ryan Day? Is it an intensity thing? Is it, every coach can be great, but they all have different styles. Was there a difference, a shift when Coach Day became the head coach and kind of the recruiter was set instead of it being Urban instead?
But you know what? It's I can't compare just because both gentlemen are so different. To compare Coach Meyer to Coach Day or Coach Day to Coach Meyer, they're so different, and their approach is very different. I would say Coach Meyer's approach with our family during the recruiting process was very direct. He was very direct with us. He was very evidence-based with us. And that's what Paris and I were looking for. He knew he could not sell Ohio State football to us. It wasn't about selling Ohio State football, but more giving us evidence and proof on how he can help develop Paris, opportunities for him outside of football in the city of Columbus. So his approach to us was very different. And then as far as communicating with Coach Day, it was about us just developing a friendship, a level of trust, communication. And so the approach with both were very, very different. Coach Stud continued to be Coach Stud. So Coach Stud remained the same during the entire process. So, prior to Coach Day, Coach Stud continued before and after communicating with us, having weekly conversations, film studies with Paris. So he was the constant during the entire process, was Coach Stud.
Yeah. And I know if something would have happened to Stud, it might have changed. You might have to look around a little bit because he was pretty important. He was the one guy that I always tell people the position coach is really, you got to like your position coach, or else it's really hard to be good if you just hate
Absolutely. Absolutely, because the position coach is the head coach of that room. And that part is very important to me. That's why the team up north was no longer an option, just because of what you just said. And also strength and conditioning is just as important, because I knew that Paris would spend more time with Coach Mick and his staff, more so than he would spend in his position group. So strength and conditioning was just as important to our family as well.
Yeah, and Mick's the best in the world. No one's better than Mick. He's the best. I'm sure.
He is.
EJ says the same thing, I'm sure. Well, Monica Daniels, I'm going to keep getting used to that. I really appreciate your time.
I love the sound of
awesome.
that.
Sure. I know, it sounds great. It's just, it's just, you've been saying Johnson because PJ, all of a sudden it's Daniels. It's just, I'm happy for both of you. I love Mike. Mike's like one of the greatest guys ever. And anything I can do to help, you let me know. I'm going to put this up. I think people are going to love it. So I really appreciate your time, and give Mike a hug. Well, after you beat him down with some of those moving boxes, after he rips open those boxes, hangs the stuff up again for the third time in 4 months. But
right, I absolutely. Well, I thank you for reaching out. I enjoyed this time. Contact me anytime.
All right, you're the best. Have a good one.
Right.
See you, Monica.
You too.